stuff at my house. One minute. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. To change everything here. All right. Yeah. All right. I don't have my lenses on. Everything looks blurry to me. Let me see. Sign tab.
Can you see you can't see the teleprompter, right?
The teleprompter.
Because I have the teleprompter on. I don't think you can see it. I can see it, but you probably can't see it.
Oh no, I can't see it.
Okay, cool. So no, just it's on there. It's just for the introduction and stuff. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay.
You ready to go?
Ready to roll?
All right. First, let me say welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Odd online dating podcast. I'm your host, Craig Palmer, author of The Good, the Bad, and the Odd online dating book. I'm also a certified domestic violence counselor and anger management counselor. Also, let me introduce my co host, Rosalind Williams. Rosalind is also a counselor and author. She formerly hosted the Life Matters Today television program and has extensive experience working with individuals dealing with mental illness, substance abuse, and trauma related challenges. So, Rosalind is the perfect co pilot on this show because we have
Wow.
some women that got some issues.
Women.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking. We all have issues. So, but anyway, tonight's show we're going to talk a little bit about online profiles, and I find online profiles to be pretty interesting. To be very honest with you, because what's really kind of crazy about online profiles is that there's some thought that you can tell when people put some thought into their online profiles, and then you can tell when the person really doesn't take the thought of online dating seriously, right? So when I look at online, and then, one of the things I wanted to just right, because I think people struggle with their online profile, honestly. And they should know what men are looking at. So for me, when I look at an online profile, the first thing that I look at is, does the person, how they're dressed, right? Because I feel like, when you date someone and you introduce them to like a family member or someone like that, the person you're seeing is a reflection of you, right? And so I can't introduce someone to my family who's going to be looking all crazy, right? I can't take someone to a fundraiser and they don't know how to dress appropriately. So I always look at how the person is dressed, first of all. The second thing I look at is distance. How far are they from, from my location, right? Because, obviously you want to be able to see the person. And if they're too far away, then it makes it difficult to create a relationship. Not impossible, but definitely difficult. I look at level of education because I think someone who has a higher level of education, I think me and her would probably vibe a little bit more because I tend to be very analytical and like to talk about a wide variety of topics. And so, and then of course, how many children does the person have, right? Because if you have 4 or 5 kids, young kids, like for instance, I met a woman online a couple of months ago, and the woman had a 26-year-old kid, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And I'm thinking to myself, you have a 2-year-old. Like, that's not so far removed from being involved with the father. So I'm thinking to myself, like, what happened that that prevented that relationship to continue? So, that's just some of the things. What do you look at, Rosalind, when you look at profiles, male
Well,
profiles?
well, first of all, and I know you mentioned, I know you only mentioned women because I'm sure you only see women.
Right.
But actually, I got a chance to change my preference just to
Mm-hmm.
see what my opposition looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I've seen men and women. And the reason being because I've heard so many men say things about women's profiles, and I'm like, you got to see these guys on here. I mean, these men beer bellies laying back on the in the bed and no shirt on, and I mean that's one thing. I always see these men posing in bathrooms with no shirt on, taking their shirt off and toothpaste all over the bathroom mirror. Just, I mean, clothes, trash, everything in the background. Sometimes people don't even show their faces. They show devil worshiping signs, skeletons. I mean, I've seen the gamut. I've seen so much on here. And, I'm thinking that a lot of these guys are not polished. They're not well dressed, piercings all over everywhere, and just not even looking. They don't even care how they look. Some of these guys, I'm going to tell you, out of the profiles that I've seen online, I would say maybe 40% of the people actually care how they're dressed. It's amazing to me. It's amazing that people don't put in a lot of thought. And so it's not just men and even women. Like I said, just looking at my opposition, Who are my who's out there, and what do they look like? What do these people look like? And so I looked and I'm like, these women, what's going on with these women? They are not dressing the part. They don't have, the pictures are not, some don't have on, you don't have to wear tons of makeup, but at least act like you want someone, look like you want someone, look the part. They're not dressed well. And these are old pictures, and some people have put on their profiles pictures that are like 15 to 20 years old, and I've met people who've done that. So I have to say that, I think people definitely can do much better on their profiles. So I've seen the gamut, and I'm not impressed. I,
Well, I mean, I have to admit, I've never looked at a male profile ever. And to be very honest with you, that's honestly to me something a woman would do. Like women, and no disrespect to women, but women have a tendency to be catty, right? And they want to see, what their competition is, how they stack up. And from a male standpoint, I really could care less how I stack up against other guys
mhm,
because you have to be confident in who you are. So for me, as long as I feel like I try to keep myself in halfway decent shape, I
mhm,
think that I consider myself intelligent
mhm,
and kind of put together in terms of what I bring to the table.
mhm,
So I feel like I can stack up pretty well against another guy. So I've never kind of looked at it from that perspective.
mhm.
But I must admit, like looking at some of the women's profiles is really astonishing. Like, let me just tell you some of the things that really aggravate me when I look at a woman's profile, right?
Mhm.
One, I hate when a woman only has one picture, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because, most dating websites and apps and things of that nature allow you to have 5 or 6 pictures.
Mhm.
So the least you could do is put, I'm going to say maybe 2 or 3, right? 2 or 3 pictures,
Mhm.
right? The next thing that really aggravates me is a woman that doesn't smile in a picture. Right. And in fact, someone had said to me, "You're not smiling in any of your pictures." And I went back and looked at it and I was like, you know what? She was right. I'm not smiling in any pictures. So I made a point to smile in at least in one of my profile pictures. The other thing is, I almost feel a little insulted when a woman, shows off her derriere, her butt. Like, I get guys are visual creatures. And don't
Mhm.
get me wrong, we like to see some nice breasts, nice ass and stuff like that. But, when a woman, the first picture is a picture of her showing her ass, it's like almost insulting. It's almost insulting me. It's like, what? That's the only thing I'm interested in? Right? So I'm like, no. And then you have like these young girls. What can you explain to me why in God's green earth would someone stick their tongue out in a profile? Right? They got their tongue sticking out in a profile, right? I mean, I think I can guess what that means, but
Mhm.
maybe it means something totally different. So I'm going to ask you, what does it mean when a woman sticks her
No,
tongue out in a
I
profile?
I have no idea, because I would not stick my tongue out in my profile. I wouldn't do it. And I have not a clue. Does it, I mean, what does it mean? That you're
I'm
good at
assuming that it
licking? I
means.
mean, you're good
I'm
at
assuming
licking.
that. Yeah, I'm assuming they mean that. Listen, I give a good blowjob. That's what I'm
This is
thinking,
how long my tongue is. So, I'm just like,
right?
who does
And,
that? But
and then you have women, and I find this only with young women usually. They got their a middle finger stuck up in their profile. Like they got literally they're like this, and I'm like, why? Why would you have that in your profile, right? It just, and then kind of like what you mentioned, right? Women don't look like their profile pictures. I'm sorry. And I think my personal opinion is I think women do it more than men,
Yeah.
right? Because women can wear wigs, they can wear makeup, they can alter their appearance so drastically. Like one time I went and met a woman, and the first thing she said when she entered the bar was, I know I don't look like my profile picture. And I was thinking, yeah, you don't. And she said, well, I had to take birth control. My doctor prescribed birth control, and it added 60 pounds and this and that. And I'm like, well, then why not put a profile picture that reflects how you look right now, as
Absolutely.
opposed to a profile picture that, was 3, 4 months ago? And
Hmm.
she looks nothing like a profile picture. And I'm like, I think you're only setting yourself up for failure if you do that,
Hmm.
because you don't want that look from the guy when he goes, you don't want that look. You want the person to be like, oh, okay. That pleasant surprise look, not that, what the hell is that look?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
so I'm sorry. I mean, you don't want that. So, it's important that, you know, and listen, you've got to rock with what you got. I mean, there's something attractive about everyone.
Hmm.
So it could be your smile, it could be your personality, it could
Hmm.
be, how you dress. So you've got to kind of rock with what you got. You can't, hide. And then the profile pictures, and I have this in my book, right? And I think people understand that if you want to mislead someone, take a picture from a higher angle, right? like taking a picture from a high angle, it's like, okay. And
Are you
then when you,
down with that? You know about that, huh? All the
yeah,
women's secrets.
yeah, I'm
We'll get
like,
down to the women's secrets.
I'm like, what? I'm sorry, like, no, 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 no. I mean, we figured it out. And then maybe because I do computer graphics on the side, I
Hmm.
can see an AI generated picture like nobody's business. And so nowadays, there are women out there that are using these AI generated pictures. And, like one girl literally, had in her picture, she had on like business attire and very shapely and everything like that, right? And then we did a like a FaceTime call, right? And looked nothing like the picture. And that's why my suggestion to the brothers, as well as the sisters, yo, do a FaceTime. Do a FaceTime, a Meet, Google Meet, WhatsApp, whatever, whatever you use to do video chatting, please do so. Brothers, do a video chat, because you want to make certain that the person you're talking to is the person that you're interested in. And they look like their picture, they look like the person in their profile. Because I
Hmm.
could I could show you some examples. If I showed you them, you'd be like, yeah. One time I showed my sister. I said, "Hey sis, just take a look at this," and she was shocked. I mean, shocked that the two people were the same person, like
Well,
literally.
yeah. So let me say this: before Catfish was ever created, I remember years ago, like I said in the past taping, that I have been online dating off and on. I can say this is just, I mean, it's the sign of the times, but I remember 2003, online dating. And so this was years ago during the time I met this gentleman. And it was before I heard of catfishing. But I met this guy, and I remember him looking so nice on his profile. and just a tall stature and, glasses on, slender. And then when I met him, yeah, he didn't have glasses, and he probably was about maybe about 50 pounds more. And I mean, looked totally different than his picture. And I was questioning, is this the same man? And so when I asked him, I said, this is interesting. I said, because your profile is totally different than it looks totally different than you. And he said, yeah, that was like 15 years ago. And I thought, who does that? Who puts a picture, a 15-year picture that's an age difference on their profile? Who does that? And I said, why'd you do that? And he said, oh, well, I couldn't find any pictures. I just used that one. I said, you really shouldn't do that. And so he could tell that I was a little annoyed with him. And he asked me, he said, were you going to order anything? I said, no, I'm not going to order. I'm going to let you, you go on and order. And then we can talk, and then I'm going to leave. I didn't want to be rude, but he knew that was going to be the last time hearing from me.
Hmm.
So that's happened to me before. And then it's interesting because, it happened to me within a year ago. A gentleman, he had on his white coat, doctor,
Hmm.
and he, just knew, of course, that he was definitely a doctor. And so he contacted me, and on his picture he looked like he was just a really nice looking guy. And he also looked in shape. And so we met. And I remember walking in the restaurant, and I was looking around looking for the guy, and I noticed this guy at the bar, and I said, that can't be him. And I looked to my right, and I said, well, maybe that's the guy. And I said, no, that doesn't look like him. And so I started to call him, and he called my name, and I said, oh, I didn't even realize. Okay, this is you. Okay, nice to meet you. And so we walked to the table, and I looked at him, and I said, this guy is totally different than his pictures. So I asked him, I said, what happened? I said, you do look a little different than your pictures. He said, oh yeah, that was like 5 years ago. One of my colleagues took the picture,
Hmm.
and he said that was 5 years ago. And I said, well, you really should change your picture in your profile,
Right.
because it looks totally different than you. So I just don't, I mean, if you're really serious about dating, and you're looking to meet someone, it's very unfair to do that. And not just that, you don't just do yourself a disservice, or you just don't do the other person a disservice. You also do yourself a disservice, and you're wasting people's time and yours. But not just that. I mean, really, what's the real reason you're on? If you're on to meet someone to date, and really you're really serious about dating, then why would you do that? Because that's probably going to be a no for you. So you are wasting your time, and you're wasting the other person's time. Nobody wants to, if you're serious and they're serious, they don't want to lie. I mean, that's lying without saying you're lying.
Right.
Yeah. It's happened to me before. It's happened, a couple of times, but
Well, I mean, I could honestly say it's only happened a couple of times for me as well. I think that, and listen, you have to understand something. When it comes to profiles, I think people kind of expect, at least you tell me if I'm wrong, you kind of expect the person to lie a little bit, right? Like I've heard women say, guys, oftentimes lie about their height, right? So because listen, a lot of women want a tall guy, right? Unfortunately, the average height for a male, for a black male, I think is about 5'11".
mhm.
It's not 6 feet. And you
No.
hear a lot of women say, I want someone, 6 feet, over 6 feet. listen, guys are gonna lie. They're gonna put 6'1" because they know if you put 5'11", I mean, just on some of the dating apps, when you put a height and, let's just say you click on the person's height. If you put it, I only want someone over 6 feet, that person's not going to show up. So the guy is going to put 6'1", even though he might not really be 6'1", he's like maybe 5'11",
Hmm.
because he wants to make certain that, he's at least going to get in. Because I think guys feel like, let me let her get to know me,
Hmm.
and maybe I can persuade her to be interested in me because I have a lot going on, right? I don't know if women think like that. Like, do you guys say, let me at least, like, for instance, I know for me, smokers are a deal breaker, right? So, if, and I could just say, from a lot of the guys that I've spoken to, smoking is a deal breaker. So, if a woman was trying to get, a decent guy, she probably would put non-smoker, right? And, that would open up some of the guys that she would be exposed to.
Hmm.
And then, maybe she says to the guy, you know what, I smoke, but I'm trying to quit. Or maybe she decides not smoking is worth being with this guy. Because I
Hmm.
can just tell you, a lot of guys smoking, they're not going for a woman that smokes,
Hmm. Hmm.
And then, like I said, in profiles, I don't feel like, as a guy, we don't, at least for me, I really don't care what a woman does for a living, right?
Hmm.
Like, it's meaningless to me. Like, the only thing that I look at when it comes to employment is, I kind of don't want to date someone who's in retail.
Hmm.
And the only reason why is because retail means that they have to work weekends.
Hmm.
And it also means sometimes that they have to work late nights and stuff like that. And I
Hmm.
know someone who has a retail schedule, because I worked in retail many years. I used to be a store manager.
Hmm.
When you work in retail, you got to work Saturdays sometimes, you got to work Sundays. It might be every other Saturday and Sunday. And so that poses a challenge. It's not a deal breaker, but I do recognize that it does pose a challenge sometimes, if you date someone that's involved in retail. So, so,
No, go on.
so now, do you care about what a guy does for a living?
Well, I do. And I think, you're definitely one of the guys that um, is rare because a lot of men, and I'm not going to, a lot of men do, not every man, but a lot of men do. They are concerned about what that woman does. And as for the woman, I think a lot of women are concerned because they're looking at stability and security. And they're looking at, for some women, they're looking at, is this man able to provide and protect? And so it's not just, and also, what type of job does he have a career, or is it just a job? Does he job hop? I mean, is he going to be able to provide a roof over our heads? And those are some of the things women think about, more mature women anyway. um so those are, I definitely, and those are some of the things that I look at. As far as men are concerned, some men are not looking at being providers, or looking at a woman's job. And I think those are men that probably are definitely looking for, a wife, a woman, knowing that, they do better having a wife or a woman. It's not about what she has, it's about what she brings to the table, as far as her character and who she is, to add to that relationship, but not about how much money she has. Now, what for the men who think that I can't date a woman unless she makes this amount of money and she has to have this type of job. And you got to wonder, what are they bringing to the table? Why are you so concerned about what the woman has? And I'm not saying, of course we have, and we'll probably talk about this in another show. We talked about the 50-50, and so I won't get into that. But I think that men that in my opinion, I feel like that some men that look at that, and I'm not saying all, but I think that some men look at a woman, what she's bringing to the table, maybe looking to get something from her, as opposed to adding. In my opinion, I believe that we get into a relationship because we have something that we want to give. uh, it's reciprocity, I believe, in my book. As far as a relationship, it's an exchange. It's not about, oh, take, let me get what I can get from you. So definitely, those are the things that I think that are important in terms of choosing your mate and dating.
I mean, when it comes to, um, you know, when when you look at what a woman does, right?
Hmm.
Like, one, I don't care if a woman makes more money than me.
Hmm.
It's been rare that I've met a woman that makes more money than I do. But it's happened on a couple of occasions, and it didn't bother me none, because I think everybody brings something different to the table,
Hmm.
right? And I know me personally, I'm not intimidated by women who make more money than me,
Hmm.
because I think I can always generate more money if I have to. But I know there are guys out there who are intimidated. And listen, a lot of women are doing quite well. And so it kind of shocks me that you say you're concerned with a guy being a provider and a protector, because a protector, yes, but in today's economy, why do you need a guy that is a provider? I mean, if you're doing significantly
Well, you
well.
got to ask, Craig. Let me say this. When I say provider, provider does not always mean, and some women don't mean that a provider has to totally take care of you 100%. He's providing to the household, he's contributing. His
Hmm.
income is a factor, so provider does not mean that you have to contribute 100%.
Hmm.
So I believe that a provider, depending on who you're talking to, can mean different things. So you might be looking at it as provider means 100%, and for some women that may be the case. But as I said to you before, I think providing means that you are contributing, and the woman is contributing as well. She may not be contributing 100% of what or 50-50, or they're contributing, they're equal in what they contribute, but she is definitely contributing. And I'm not saying just washing the dishes, I'm not saying just cooking. I believe that there's other ways that that woman is definitely going to contribute, and I have my own take on that.
Right, and I totally get that. I mean, don't get me wrong, because understand we're talking about online dating. So initially, when you're meeting someone, the expectation, I think, is that the person is going to be able to meet you halfway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means at least this is what I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong. I think the woman generally, and this is just from profiles that I've seen, usually the woman just like I've seen profiles that says I just want a guy with a job, right? Or I see women say stuff like I want the person to bring to the table what I have,
Mm-hmm.
right? So their expectation is if you own your own home, you own your own car, they expect you to have that as well,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so but not all guys have that. You know what I mean? In today's economy,
So
unfortunately.
you don't believe that the man should have his own
I
car
do.
or his
I
own?
do. I mean,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying women want the guy to have that. Sometimes he doesn't, right?
Yeah, but
Um,
is that okay that he doesn't and he's entering
it's
into a relationship?
it's not okay, but think about it. If you are out there looking for a partner, right, and the partner has a job, all right, but he doesn't have a car, um,
Why doesn't
eh,
he?
maybe he recently got divorced. 'Cause I'll give you a scenario because I've seen guys in this scenario before, right?
Hmm.
He recently got divorced. He's paying alimony, child support. He's just gotten back out on his own. His money has been sliced halfway because now he no longer has a two income household. It's only his income, and he has to contribute child support and alimony and things like that. Maybe he can't afford a car right now.
Maybe should he wait to date?
Uh, you know what? I mean, that sounds realistic, but we need companionship. So you might meet someone that don't care, that you have a car, right? There are women out there that, that's not on their list, you know. I have a comment here from my brother who says women don't know what they want. And some of them don't. Some women don't know what they want. They just
Uh,
and so I would tell, listen, don't necessarily use finances to prevent yourself from dating, right? Because there are going to be people out there. Listen, what about the women out there who don't care about a guy that has a car? She has two cars, right? And all she's looking for is companionship. If he kind of thinks like you just said, well, I don't have a car, why should I be out there dating? Then guess what? He might miss out on someone really nice. She might miss out on someone really well.
let's not make judgments. Women, not all women know what they want, not all men know what they want, okay? Well, I think we're in a world of, with people that are definitely confused, about what their wants and needs are. But when you are more in touch with and in tune with who you are as a person, you've lived life, you've experienced things, you should have a pretty good grip on what you want and what you don't need. Um Now, as far as a man not having transportation, anything could happen. I mean, you could
Hmm.
be in an accident and something happens and you're going through an issue with insurance. Anything could happen. You don't have transportation. But if that's going to be mounted on, I don't have a car, I just got a divorce, I have these bills, I have child support, I'm going through a
Hmm.
job transition, whatever I need. I mean, that's a lot. And at that point, you probably need to wait to date. Like you said, hey, that may not be realistic because um, it may not work for everyone because people want companionship, not just men. However, if you're not looking to settle down and you just want to, hey, I'm not interested in settling down with any one particular person. I'm just interested in just meeting my needs. Basically, that's what you may as well say that, because any woman who is mature and has something to offer and has something to lose is not going to be interested. Point blank.
Okay,
They're
but
not going to be interested. If you got something
hmm
to lose, you better that person better have some skin in the game. If you don't have any skin in the game and you're confronting a woman that has something to lose and you have nothing that you're bringing to the table but a bunch of I lost, I don't have, no. That's
so you don't think that a woman should take a guy that you might have gotten him. It's kind of like a stock market. I'm going to use an analogy of a stock market for a moment. You get a guy who is really cheap, a really cheap stock, right?
Hmm.
But the stock could go up.
Hmm.
You're buying low and it goes up.
Hmm.
So a guy, he might be going, like you said, a transition. He just changed jobs, he just got divorced,
Yeah, build a
whatever,
bear, build a
right?
bear. Hmm.
And you get him, and listen, he's maybe struggling a little bit,
Hmm.
but he's going to bounce back. You got him early on.
Hmm.
Now you're like, nah, you're totally discarding him. Now you see him 6 months later, right? He's got his paper up again.
Hmm.
He's changed jobs. Now he's high. Now he's desirable. You just missed out on a great opportunity, right? So like you have to, I don't know. I think sometimes you've got to kind of look at the full picture. Don't just kind of look at, well, what is he bringing and all that kind of stuff. Because listen, maybe he needs a woman like you to help him navigate.
Men don't date women like that. That's the issue. Okay. Women date men for potential.
Mm-hmm.
Women date men because they feel like, okay, maybe he will one day. Men don't date women like that. It's either you got it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Either you look the part or you don't. But
Mm-hmm.
men do not date women. Oh, well, maybe in a year she'll lose that 30 pounds. Maybe in a year she'll take that weave out of her hair and she'll wear her own hair. Maybe she won't wear all that makeup. No. Men don't do that. Men date you for who you are, what they see in front of their faces. Too many women date men for potential, and then they end up losing in the end because they shoulda, coulda, woulda. Oh, I should have dated this guy based on who he was, not what I thought he was going to be. And we always do that. Hey, I've
Uh-huh.
done that before too. And I've
Uh-huh.
gotten myself in a lot of trouble because I'm thinking, okay, I misfix it, or I can wait. This guy's gonna everything's gonna pan out later on. He'll be the guy that I know that he could be. But
Uh-huh.
no, it doesn't change. The thing is that I respect the guy that says, "Hey, this is where I am right now. This is what I have. These are the cards that have been dealt to me, and right now I cannot date serious." Now, I didn't used when I heard guys say that, I used to get so upset with them. I'm like, here it is. This is a really nice guy. What's going on with him? Why won't he get himself together? But I started meeting men who pretended to have and they really didn't, and they lied. So it made me respect a man who says, I really don't have right now, but I went through some things, so right now I'm not really interested in getting into a relationship because I'm trying to get some things together.
Okay.
And then after that I'll date. I can respect a man who says that, man or woman, because what happens is it's spillage. It spills over into the relationship and it ends up causing issues later on. Oh, you don't have a car. You can't come get me tonight. I've driven us around. I mean, this whole for what, 4 months now? You still don't have a car? You mean to tell me you can't pay for a meal? Oh, you got your kids uh child support. I mean, after a while it ends up causing issues, especially for someone who doesn't have any skin in the game. There's no investment. Why am I putting all of this out for you and later on hoping to get a return, and I may not? I am all for giving because I'm a giver. The reason why I'm speaking this strongly about it, because I've been there. I've been in that woman's shoes before, who waited and thought that later on this person, it'll pan out. He has a lot of potential. He's a very nice guy. He's very intelligent, and I know it's going to pan out. But I ended up giving so much of myself and being depleted and not getting anything but a bunch of promises later on in the relationship. So I just feel like, you know, Just be honest and let that person make a decision. Hey, everybody doesn't feel the way I do. There's a lot of women out there that date for potential and date a man who really doesn't have it. But the thing is that, and it's okay. I mean, you don't have to. I'm not saying I'm not looking for a man. You have to have a certain number. Some women are like, oh, he has to make over six figures. Oh, he better make over $300,000. Come on now, let's be realistic. And you have nothing. I mean, a lot of women, they have nothing. They're bringing nothing to the table, but they want everything. I'm not one of those women, but what I do want to know is that you're vested, that and that you have something to offer the relationship, not just your penis. Okay,
Hmm.
because we should be beyond that. When you're older, you should start thinking differently. So that's just my opinion.
Hmm.
That's how I feel.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna say that it's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine that I met online, that I met online a while ago,
Hmm.
and she was telling me about a story where she met this guy online, and she thought that she was invested in him. She thought that they were gonna, be together long term, and he was saying all the right things, and she co-signed a car for him, a truck. Like I think he drove trucks. He drove trucks for a living, and so she co-signed to help him get his own truck. And then, after he got his finances in order and got the truck and started making serious money, he left her
Hmm.
because he improved himself. His money got right, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm gonna be honest with you, he upgraded. There's a risk that you take when
Absolutely.
you're dating someone because,
You got it.
listen, you've got to be special, pretty special, because let's keep it real. From a male standpoint, there are a lot of attractive, viable women out there,
Hmm.
and I'll be the first to tell you, I want amazing, right?
Hmm.
I'm not, especially if you're planning to be with someone long term,
Hmm.
right? If you're going to be with the person the rest of your life, I'm sorry, I want fucking amazing, right?
Hmm.
And so that means the person has to have a good, first and foremost, have a great heart. They got to have a great heart,
Hmm.
right? And then of course they got to be able to meet me halfway. Like they got to, have some sort of job or career, right? And you know, and also, you know, just have really good conversation, right? Because if you can't talk to the person, remember, we're talking about long term here.
Hmm.
So we're talking about traveling. We're talking about meeting family members. We're talking about being involved in different fundraisers and events and things like that. So the person has to bring a certain things to the table, right? So when it comes to like when you're looking at profiles and stuff like that, um, you got to put your best foot forward. Your best foot forward. You can tell, like I said, the women that one picture. I see women say a lot of times, uh, "I'm not putting anything because men don't read them anyway." What? I'm sorry. When I look at profiles, I read them. I actually read them, and I see profiles women have words misspelt, right? As a writer, that bothers me when I see a woman have a profile misspelled, right?
Hmm.
Another thing that kind of drives me nuts too, when a woman, um, like there's certain terms that they use in a profile that I'm gonna like overlook right away. I don't want to hear a woman say, "I want princess treatment," right? And the reason why is because you shouldn't have to tell a guy to treat you like a princess, like a queen, right? So if you're telling a guy to treat you like a princess or a queen, you know what? You're not accustomed to be treated that way. and therefore I would ignore that profile. Right? It's kind of like I tell my clients, you don't put honesty on a resume. It's kind of understood, right?
Mhm.
Like I don't, you don't have to tell an employer I'm honest. He's hiring you to be honest, right? He ain't saying, listen, I'm hiring you because I want you to rob me blind. No, he expects you to be honest. He expects you to be committed, and things like that. And it's the same thing with relationships, online dating.
Mhm.
The expectation is you're going to be, if that's, faithful or monogamous, if that's what you're looking for. It's understood,
Mhm.
I'm saying when you get to that stage in the relationship, because, early on, you're dating different people. Once you have that conversation, like, yo, you're the one, then there's an expectation.
Well, let me ask you, would you date yourself?
Of course, I
So
most
do
certainly
you
would.
you would. Okay. So
Hmm.
you feel like you're a pretty amazing person, huh?
I don't think I'm a pretty amazing person. My cousin tells me all the time, "You're dope. You're dope."
Oh,
Right?
okay.
And I'm
Okay.
like, "You think so?" She's like, "Yeah, you're dope."
You know, I ask that because, you know, when we talk about what we want, you have to, or what hey, I want this amazing person. We have to ask ourselves that, are you amazing? Would you date yourself?
Hmm.
And I think that those are the things when you think about that, and you're like, gee, do I want someone that, doesn't like whatever it is, XYZ, or they don't keep their word, or, they're always late, or yeah, whatever it is, do you
Hmm.
want someone like that? Do you want to be treated with that type of treatment? And so we have to ask ourselves that. And those are the things that I think we should work on. Knowing that we are not perfect. I mean, come on, we all have flaws. We have to give. I believe in giving people a pass. Those are things that, those are not my must-haves. Those are some things that I feel like, hey, I can definitely give a pass, because I need allowances too, because I know I'm not perfect. But those are there are some things that you need to you got to put your foot down and, like, okay, I definitely have to have this in terms of dating. And we all want amazing. We all want awesome. Um, we're not going to all get it. There are some things that we definitely have to, say, hey, you know what? Well, they don't have this. I can make an exception for certain things. And I think that is what you're saying.
So what are the three?
Let me say
Let's.
this,
Hmm.
because the reason why I brought this up, and the reason why I'm saying this, because you mentioned that this guy, we're dating potential. He may not have XYZ now, but later on he may. So that guy is not going to be pretty awesome. At I mean, when I look at him, I'm like, yeah, he's not pretty amazing to me. So
But strip. Wait. Hold on a second. Let's strip away the materialistic things for a moment, right?
mhm,
So let's just say, for argument's sake, uh, he works, right? He's not completely destitute, right? Like he has a job, but he doesn't have a car, right? Maybe his credit is not the greatest in the world, right? Because I remember a story where a woman met this guy online, right? And, she was accomplished, and, he had a job, but he didn't know really, he didn't have great credit, he didn't have a car, and she helped guide him, right? And what he brought to the table is what she was looking for, which was comforting. He was very comforting, right? Like she came home, he prepared meals for her, right? Like, she had a companion. So she wasn't looking for a guy to necessarily have a great job, right? Because she had a great job, right? And so, or slash career. All she was looking for was comfort, companionship, right? And she was able to help him get a car because he was bad with his money, right? So she told him, "Listen, you need to start saving money," because he wasn't thinking about it. You know what I mean? He was just taking his paycheck and squandering it. So when she came along, he was like, "Yo, you need to put aside $500 every pay period," and eventually he was able to get a car. She told him like, "Listen, you need to establish credit," because he never thought about it. So she helped him establish credit, right? And eventually, she built him up, and she's very happy with him. So sometimes, like I said, you might have to take someone. Maybe you're not looking for that particular thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think a lot of women are looking for that guy that brings a good career and all that kind of stuff. But those guys, they're going to be looking for
And a pretty
elite,
amazing woman.
right?
Well,
Elite women, elite.
see, this goes back to what I said. Guys generally don't give women a pass.
Hmm.
Women give men a pass. You know, so you want a pretty amazing woman. She better be amazing in every way. Okay? And so most men want that. But in terms of women, we generally give men a pass. And the reason why I'm so dogmatic about that, because we've done it so many times before, and what happens is we end up getting the short end of the stick. We give the men a pass, and then later on we are left holding the bag. Like you mentioned, you may give someone one a pass, and you may do all these things to help them to get ahead, and then later on they end up leaving you in the end.
Hmm.
So I'm just very careful when it comes to that, especially at my age. Now, when you have dated someone, you have a history with that person. You and that person, not just dating, but you've been together for years. You've seen them through their ups and downs. You've seen them have a job, they're on top of the world, and then you've seen them lose everything and they have to regain it again. Then you know that that person has potential. You know that that person they have a history with you. But when you get to be a certain age and you're dating these people that come into your life, you don't know what has happened. Is this their history? Do they keep a job? I
Hmm.
mean, or do they always lose their job? And I mean, is their credit bad because they went through a divorce and they had some hard times, or do they just have poor credit? Period. And I mean, they don't use discretion when it comes
Hmm.
to spending their money. I mean, what is the real reason? And
Hmm.
so, I mean, I just don't want to have that got you get you thing
Hmm.
happening to me again.
I'm going to
So,
use your term, a hobosexual.
a what?
Didn't you say a hobosexual before? Didn't you tell me that before?
I don't
Like
think
they,
so. I don't
oh,
know to
okay.
mention
Someone,
that. I've
some,
heard of
some,
that term
yeah.
before.
Someone said,
Yeah,
there
I've
are
heard
guys out there that are hobosexuals.
homosexual. Yes, I've heard of that term. It's yep. So yeah, it's this online thing it's pretty interesting. When you're looking at these profiles and trying to filter through, I would prefer for someone to be honest with me.
Hmm.
You have like you multiple pictures, not just one, multiple pictures, and also give me something to desire. I mean, if you're on here and you're in the game, then act like you want to win. I mean, it's like, are you really looking to win, or are you just trying to score a point?
Hmm.
you know
Got you.
I mean, really. So yeah.
All right. Well, let me first say thank you for all our guests and all the questions and comments.
Yes,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate it. I
Oh,
love
I
it.
didn't see the comments.
Yeah, you can't see
Where
the
are
comments. I
they?
can. I can see the comments here.
You gotta share them with me.
Yes, yes. In fact, my brother says, Cheesecake Factory ain't good enough for these women
Oh,
nowadays.
that's not true. You gotta read the comments, Chris. That
You
is
know,
not
yes,
true for every
and
woman. I love the
and
Cheesecake Factory.
right, and I'm gonna have to agree with Rosalind. The average woman doesn't mind the Cheesecake
Yeah.
Factory. There's another place here in Savannah. It's called what's the name of it? Something Kitchen. I forget the first name of it. Um, and women, I don't think they mind. I mean, as long as it's good food or what have you.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna have to agree with you there.
Yeah.
Another comment was they agreed with you. Oh, Cheddar's. Thank you so
Cheddars.
much.
I thought you
That's
were
the
talking about cheddars. I
right.
like
Yeah,
cheddars.
yeah. So you know what? Thank you. Yes, because that's the restaurant I was thinking about, Cheddar's.
Hmm.
Also, but so what we're gonna do is gonna wrap up this show. But for those of you who want to join us for the next show, because we're actually gonna do something that we don't aren't gonna be doing often, but we're gonna actually do another show right after this one.
Yeah.
So as soon as I stop this show, we're actually gonna do another show. The next topic that we're gonna discuss we're going to talk about what are your likes, dislikes, red flags, and green flags. So we're going to talk about, what are some of the things that you're looking for in your partner, and what are some of the things that you look out for that you want to run away from, and there are some things you want to run to. So we're going to talk about that on our next show, coming up in a couple of minutes. So stick with us because we're going to be closing this up, but we're going to start another show in a couple of minutes. So
All
thank you
right.
everyone that joined us
Thank
and,
you.
and, and
Yes.
stick around.
All right. Have a good night.
Okay. Hang on, Rosalind. Don't hang up.